I'm back. I know I'm making another what if a little bit late, but holiday's really been tackling me so far. So we going with what if, and this is gonna sound crazy. Deku had an athletic physique. Now I'm not gonna give him 100% of one for all off the bat, but I will give him more than the crappy amount he had at Canon, where he couldn't even use it without being knocked out, or at least beaten down to a bloody pulp. So, he starts out looking a little bit bigger. I'd say he's about as big as All Might in this picture. And this is All Might in his, teenage form, so he isn't as big as he could be, but he's still bigger than most. So he's already about as tall as present Mike. I'd say no. Well, Aizawa and present Mike are around the same height, so around that height. He's about as buff. He's a little bit more muscular than, well, either of them, so yeah. He's not as muscular as, Endeavor or All Might, but he's pretty big. For a high schooler, he's pretty big. He went more for growing muscle than he went for being all easy, lightweight and everything, but he's still pretty fast. It's like looking at a monster comparative. He's about 6 foot tall and almost, well, I'd say 300 pounds. No, that wouldn't make any sense. He's about 6 foot tall, 250 muscle. And I'm not talking about a little bit of muscle. I'm talking about built like a Greek god kind of physique. Well, not really. He looks like this. He's got more definition, though, than All Might did at that age. And he is easily able to handle 20% one for all. And you might be thinking, that's crazy. But, I mean, All Might was able to handle 100% one for all when he was given it. And he, I don't think, would make it, I think 5 times the strength it was before might be all Might could do. From when he first got it. And that's why I'm giving Deku, with his even larger than All Might's look, 20% of one for all. And when he got it, first thing he did was throw a 100% punch, which was, because he could already hang with everyone, but he jumped in the way of a lot of attacks. In this version, he got second place with 73 points. You might be wondering, why would he only get second with such a high number? Well, because Bakugo got first place. And he got 74 points. But Deku only got those 73 points for rescuing people. He didn't get any attacking points. So this seemed like it was just crazy, and he was ranked second. So he could pretty much beast out among everyone. And most people wouldn't want to mess with him, as his size was a clear advantage compared to most. And I wouldn't call him big, but I wouldn't call him small either. He's bigger than the average high schooler, but he's not as big. He's a little bit... He's just like All Might is in this picture, but more defined. And he is more than ready for a fight. And the only one I think could keep up with and Deku's skill and hand-to-hand, he's already about as skilled as, well, I'd say, of all people, who should I pick? He's probably got enough hand-to-hand skill to keep up with Aizawa, but, because Aizawa, with his quirk, just deactivates other people's quirks. So he could throw hands with people that would usually have super strength, which make him pretty high-leveled. And yeah, he's able to handle hand-to-hand with that. But when All Might's power added onto that, with One for All, he could easily throw hands with just about anybody. And I don't mean oh, he can throw hands, but he'll get whooped. I mean, he can keep up and probably even win a fight against a lot of people. But I wouldn't say he just walks up into a fight and slaps people that would usually keep up with All Might, no. And he actually is working on his ability and getting more muscle on him. And I wouldn't say he's huge, but him and All Might are pretty similar in size at this point. And he's just RKOing, and he knows more fighting styles than All Might does, so he uses them more. His 20% could probably let him handle All Might in a fight. And he's bigger than Bakugo by far. So we get into 1A, and He knows this, and he's kept up his training regimen, the All-American Dream Plan, and he's actually kept it up higher than it was in canon, since he had basically trains with All Might every day, and All Might trains in his base form too, so he can go out and fight for a lot longer, though. Actually, yeah. So Deku is more than ready for a fight, an honest fight, because no one's been able to give him one other than All Might and Aizawa. Because for sparring training, he asked if he could train against the teacher. The teacher, who's exhausted, says, alright, whatever, and stops holding back. But the teacher also gets into a good hand-to-hand with that one. And Deku, by the first day of 1A, of being in 1A, he already knows how to use One for All and only at 20%, but he keeps it through his whole body the way he should. He learned that pretty quickly. And he throws mad kicks. His kicks are like complete knockouts with one hit. That's why no one likes to fight him in a kind of just striking match, because he's one of the best strikers. But he doesn't have enough force to back him up, but he's got the speed with him. Any usual person getting in a hand-to-hand match with him would probably go down in one punch. And that is no quirks. But he throws that ball, and he actually used 100% One for All, and it messed his finger up about the same way, but it was easily able to hand. But he actually said it didn't hurt because he was used to training until his body wouldn't let him move anymore. And he does it every single time. He's basically at his peak so far. He's about as strong as, well, All Might. With his, because All Might's only that powerful with with One for All. But I'm gonna say that One for All, without it, Deku could use a hand-to-hand fight against All Might. He would lose it, but he would be able to somewhat keep up. With the 20% One for All he's able to use, he's able to easily keep up. And even outdo All Might in most points. He's basically like Aizawa, like with a little bit of All Might power. In that he can easily beat All Might. To the point where Aizawa and All Might would have to tag team him to win a fight against him. But that wouldn't be like with all, like what they could do. They would need to tag team him, and that would barely beat him. Speed-wise, he's a good bit faster than everyone else in the class. So we go through the whole thing, and he's just still, the bomb thing, he absolutely just destroys the building with one punch, and it was only, took a little bit out of his, like, barely his pinky, and he was ready for Dukes. He was ready to throw some hands after that. And he didn't even need to. Now the people who we have, now the next, the USJ. Deku, he straight up just walks in the USJ and just kicks one person clean through the wall. And what I mean by that is, well, he still got sent to the same area with Sue and Mineta, but with this version, he actually grabbed both of them and did that same thing, but with the same, like, with just a pinky finger to do it. And when he landed, he was feeling pain, but he was ready for a fight. Now, he's using 20% of One for All, and he's throwing hands, easily outdoing his teacher, but it's basically an equalizer because the teacher is fighting them no quirks. Deku has to fight them using their quirks because he doesn't have the ability to turn quirks off. So he's keeping hand-to-hand, though. He's going at him. Like, no struggle at all. He's able to put at least 3 of the 5, at least like 30 of the people there in the hospital if he wanted to. And then you notice that Aizawa was about to get taken down by the Nomu, but then Deku comes out with something he wasn't expecting to do, 100% punch, but he went beyond 100%. It was as if he went to 1,000,000%, but he only did it with one finger. So when that punch connected, it sent the Nomu flying backwards and basically through the USJ. The Nomu basically stumbled back in, though very messed up. And while it would be able to heal, it wouldn't be able to heal anywhere near its ability of the original. Because Deku just basically took 90% of its body completely out. And he was ready for Shigaraki, because now he had messed up his left hand's index finger and left hand pinky finger. So he had 2 fingers left on that hand. Well, 3 if you're including thumb. And his right arm is completely fine. He's ready for that. He's ready for smoke. And then Shigaraki goes to touch him with the whole power, and he basically did something unexpected. He basically did a launch of his finger, using his messed up finger to hold it. It cut him a little pain, but in his thumb he went pew. One hit of the air blast sent Shigaraki flying backwards, flying completely out of where the portal was, and Deku came in with a good kick to the back of the head of Shigaraki. And Aizawa was a good bit better healed than he was in canon, because he's a lot stronger. Now, this does mean that he is not as big, that he isn't as badly injured, and they're all more ready to fight, but Deku, he's nowhere near as injured. And then All Might walks in, because, Speedy Boy over there, I forgot his name, Ida? Yeah, I think that's it. Had got the heroes there. Now, you have a fight between All Might and the Nomu, which All Might basically just walks up and slaps the Nomu, because Deku already put it down pretty bad. And with only his middle finger and ring finger left on his left hand, he's ready for her smoke. Though 3 of his fingers are completely flipped sideways and purple, the other 2 fingers are pointing like he's going to use them into a flick. And he's able to use, because he's using, the bit of his hand to do it. He's able to throw that flick, but only those 2 fingers can do another flick. And the other hand's balled up like he's ready to punch, which he is. And then, boom. He does that one, he gets rid of his of his middle finger, shooting an attack directly towards the Kirigiri. And this blew Kirigiri back a good bit. And then, with his ring finger, the only thing left, he sent flying the last of the villains. But Kirigiri was able to get back up, and him and whatever his name is. Oh yeah, why is his name so hard to remember? The dude covered in hands. I forgot his name, sadly. He winds up getting back up. Well, he's in the lair, and he's got bullet holes in them, but instead he's basically beaten down to a bloody pulp by the one hero of Unstoppable, Deku. And he could easily keep up with, people who are higher tiers. And at this point, we have them all laying down, completely almost knocked out. They all sit up, and they're just out. Everyone in Class 1A is basically completely fine. But for the 2 weeks they have off, Deku has, basically, his left hand is gone. He has it, but it's messed up. One kiss from Recovery Girl healed him up completely. But it still took him a minute, and Aizawa healed in about a day or 2, so he isn't covered in bandages. He's still got the same scar under his eye, but he's close. But they're ready for a fight. And in this version, Aizawa actually said, "My money's on the kid with the green hair. He can keep up with me, so I think he'd be able to beat anyone else out here." And he was right. Deku got first place in the race. He got first place. I wouldn't even think. I'm not certain if it's first place or not, but I think he would do pretty well on the grabbing of the headbands with the same team. But with the final thing of the match, he said the same thing to Endeavor's kid, and then Endeavor saw this, as well as All Might, and they both saw a glimpse of themselves fighting for a second. But with an added bonus. They saw ice surrounding Endeavor. Basically, it was a fire and ice hitting against complete brute force. Nothing could stop this. So when this brute force hits, no one could handle what was about to happen. Yes, Deku had passed out in the original because he was hit, because Midnight used her quirk. But in this version, he used breathing and held his breath for throwing that punch. And he had only thrown it with his left index finger. So when that hit happened, it took completely out of the fight our one boy, but it took why am I so bad at his name? It took Endeavor's kid, I know he has a name, I just forgot it, Todoroki out of the fight, and then went against Bakugo. Bakugo's got a speed advantage on him. A small one. A very small one. Deku has a huge strength advantage on him, so whenever he's barely keeping up with speed, like they're keeping speed to speed, then Deku activates One for All 20% around his whole body. And he's just blitzing everywhere around Bakugo. Bakugo had wound up getting flicked out of the ring with one hit, but still tried fighting on as he hadn't fully hit the ground because he was using explosions to hold himself up. And he went flying back in there crazy and went with a kick. Thing is, that super drop kick with explosions backing him didn't work when it got basically rejected to a spin kick behind Bakugo, sending him stumbling out the ring. And he was literally rolling for like a whole 5 foot until he hit the floor. Until he was like stopped. And Deku was pronounced the strongest in 1A, second being Bakugo. And third, I'm going to use Todoroki as it, because Todoroki, I think, would say, I think I could handle everyone else. And he's right, he could. He could handle everyone else. Just not Deku. Deku's just not the guy for him to fight. So yeah, once Deku had completely gotten this dude completely knocked out, it was funny, laughable, everything was funny to him. And he was seen as the UA's strongest, which was pretty epic because he was. And it was said that for a second he could have a choice if he wanted to try fighting against second years. He said, "Nah, I'm good," but he said thanks to it. And because Deku hadn't wound up having the phone because he was with All Might this time, they still go to Island. I'm not sure if it's canon or not, but I'm using it as if it is. So he still got the same gauntlet. And he actually asked if she could make another one, because he was hoping for 2, telling her how amazing it'd be to have 2 gauntlets. And he wouldn't take it off, since he couldn't take it off, he didn't know how. And he had 2 gauntlets. The Island gauntlet, and another one. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, he is using the gauntlet he got there, and a second one, which was just a kind of testing one, which was said to only be able to handle 2 punches from All Might 100%. But I mean, they weren't going to need to last very long. But he still uses her as kind of a helping hand for any of the ones he would make. And he basically charges like a bat out of hell on the villain. And he basically just tackled him, hitting him with 200%. Actually, I'm going to say it was a 300% on one side and a 300% on the other, shattering both gauntlets, but still just getting wailed on by Deku, unstopping 1-2, 1-2, to the point where this guy isn't even moving anymore. He's out. But this all happened right after. This all had to happen right after All Might throw that punch. Deku using this double punch, and All Might using his double punch, basically knocked this dude down a good bit of pegs. But whenever the dude's knocked out, they get the doctor healed. The inventor healed, who was good friends with All Might. And All Might could easily throw hits that could easily, and I do mean easy, take on anyone in the My Hero verse. But Deku's throwing ones that are stronger at this point. Now, Deku, right before he left, she gave him 2 more gauntlets. And he had told him if she wanted, she could make more for him. And he said thank you, because, well, he really would need more. Because, well, he had gotten up to the point where he can now handle 35%. That's not 100, so it won't work fully. But he could use these punches, and these gauntlets were crazy useful. So he said, yeah, he wanted to use the gauntlets. And she was more than willing to make more, so he said sure. And he got 4 gauntlets, but they would all be mailed to him. But the 2 he had gotten were stronger than the others. She had said they can handle 500% punches from All Might. So I think they could handle your punches pretty well too. And he said thank you, saying actually my full power is as much as All Might's. Saying, wow, really? And she really is smart, so she wound up figuring it out. She figured out the truth. And wound up even saying, it's okay, I'll keep your secret. At this point, Deku, we go into Season 2. I don't fully remember what happened. I don't even really care. But they go to the whole power-up, the summer camp and everything. I'm gonna skip a little bit ahead to it. I don't know when it is. So when they do the summer camp, oh boy. The heroes all have a lot, like the villains are way outmatched. Muscular, boom. Because Deku's wearing 2 gauntlets. And each gauntlet can handle so much force. But when he did the 1,000,000% smash on a brand new gauntlet that could hold 10 punches, boom, just instantly ripped Muscular out. Like, he knocked him out clean. But Deku also sustained a serious injury from that one. His middle finger is completely shattered, which means he only has 4 more fingers to throw punches on the right hand. And his left hand is completely fine. He hooked another gauntlet up to his right and said, let's go, and flung himself ready to fight right where he needed to be. He dropped off Koda and then took off. At that point, he was hand to hand. He was standing right next to the villains, and they had just captured Bakugo. Deku just punched one, it sent him flying. They were about to try capturing Deku, but when they did, it sent them flying and knocked him out, so the dude with the balls wound up getting woken up really fast by a hit. And he said, what the... And he got Bakugo back into another one and just jumped through the portal injured. Deku, who he wanted to grab but couldn't catch him, wound up running after them but couldn't. And he actually, last thing he did was send a 500%. Was actually send another 1,000,000% smash using up his index finger. And this basically just made it where all of the villains in the hideout just took a full force punch from All Might, is what it felt like. They were all out like a light. They just said, as they are out. They don't think they can handle another punch. They're asking what happened, saying, and there's actually, I'm gonna say he had like a video cam thing on his mask, and he said, check the footage. And they stick video evidence of this dude utterly destroying their entire team at once. And he's just going ham on them. And this is one of the fastest cameras they've got, and it still barely keeps up with his speed. And whenever they saw that ultimate punch, they saw that one finger got shattered, but he threw a punch so hard that they all felt it. Even All For One took a slap out of that one. Actually clearing some blood from... They all cleared some blood from their mouth, saying, yeah, that kid's too strong. All For One saying, I'll have to personally deal with him. And he actually thinks he can. Like, he said, I'll have to, but he seems as strong as All Might. And he's thinking about All Might, saying, so that's your successor. Well, you've seen mine. And I've seen yours. Let's see who wins this fight. And in this version, whenever like they go to pick up Bakugo, Deku just sent them flying. And with Mineta there, too. Mineta stuck sticky balls to all of them. And whenever they hit the ground, boom. It worked as a cushion. They barely were safe. And then, boom. All For One and All Might are fighting. Shigaraki's there too, trying to help out All For One. He's somewhat keeping up in the fight, but not very much. But then Deku just goes quick with the meanest dropkick, sending him flipping over the fight. And they're completely confused. They're like, this mother trucker just got knocked out. And he did. He just got completely taken out of the fight. And I don't mean like, oh, he got knocked out, oh, he's gonna be okay in a few seconds when he regains consciousness. I mean, he got hit so hard that All Might said, really, young Midori, you had to hit him that hard? Even he was surprised at how much force Deku threw into that one. He said, that was only 10%. Saying, I know, but still. All for One saying, oh, really? You can't handle me. And then throwing a single slice, trying to stab Deku. And he actually was able to dodge slightly to the side, where he was able to still stand up after All Might threw that punch. And Deku saying, one for all. 1,000,000%. Him just All for One just turning his head saying, oh yeah, you're here. That one punch basically sending him down. All Might pointing to Deku saying, you're next. As he hit the floor. He doesn't really point to Deku, but he kind of was trying to, as much as he could. He was pointing to the he wasn't pointing to the camera this time. He was pointing towards the fight and saying, you're next. And he hit the floor, like, completely. But Shigaraki and Deku are standing right next to each other. Well, Shigaraki's not standing, he's laying down, but they're thinking, was he trying to say you're next to the kid? Or with the green hair or the blue hair? Because the blue hair tried killing him, so it might mean that, like, you're the next one we'll beat, but the kid with the green hair just saved him, so I think it's like, you're the next to fight. Like, you're the next one. You're gonna be the next great. Which is kind of true and false. The next one wound up being Endeavor, because when you know what you know, Deku isn't even out of high school yet. So he is ready to go. Then they meet the one dude that I think is just crazy. Dang, his name is long. Mirio. So Mirio found out that little power-up of Deku's and actually wanted to fight, and he was easily able to handle all of Class 1A, like, no problem. Bakugo and Todoroki had to jump at him at the same time, and both get sent flying. And then it became a one-on-one. Deku even throwing off his gauntlets, and went into a hand-to-hand match with Mirio. Mirio was able to dodge one, because he thought it was just a punch, and he wasn't prepared for the next one, because he wouldn't see anything. He just knew when that hand passed him, he thought he was completely fine as a kick hit him in the mouth, basically spinning him, as he had basically got knocked out because he couldn't hang with Deku. But he easily stood back up after that fight saying, let's go again. You got one good hit, let's see if you can get another. And Deku just throwing a full 20% punch, being enough to where Mirio tried dodging it, or even just letting it bypass him. But he actually went with the right hand, and he said, okay. So whenever he had used that, it wound up seeming to go through him, and then boom, another hit. Literally went left to try distracting Mirio, and then boom, with the right behind him. Saving Deku completely. But not yet. Like, this is just the beginning of the fight. Like, that ended the fight, yeah, but then you have Overhaul. And the way they deal with Overhaul is quite hilarious to me. Whenever Mirio tries doing that, Deku in this version tries going like a bat, he tries going beasting through it, and he does. He's slamming through each wall with small tap, small tap, small tap with 20% punches. He's sending himself through them. And right before Mirio was about to get shot by that bullet, Deku came in and wind pressure moved it, and stabbed right next to All for One, but not quite. I mean, not All for One, Overhaul. Now, whatever his, and this is like, Night Eye, he is still standing. He hasn't been stabbed yet, so Mirio and Night Eye are standing there, ready for a fight, seeing Deku jump in to assist, and he just gets the meanest, and Overhaul stood back up with getting the meanest kick to the jaw ever. And I'm not joking like, oh, it was a little hit. I mean, this hit so hard that Overhaul is just down and out. Like, he cannot go anymore. And then Overhaul strip just being... He got the same kind of beating, but this still took everything out of Deku to do, so both of his legs are completely crumpled. And he's going with his hands kind of just laying, like he's barely trying to fight. but he can't. And Eri heals him. There was a small pain he felt getting his legs reset back to a minute ago. Eri actually wound up being, as Overhaul just wound up catching one of his people, and using them to add to his power, and this actually made him keep up with Deku. And it was just 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2. Then grabbed another one of his people and was completely overwhelming Deku, until boom, a kick sent him flying. And I've only got to the point where they've beat Overhaul, so sorry guys, I won't be able to do this until I keep watching it. So boom, that hit cleared Overhaul's face, and he is out. Like, he is not standing anymore. He's just about dead. But he's got both arms. But it wound up where he wanted to try fixing himself, and he got himself back to his normal self. And each of his people were back to their normal selves too, because he didn't want to go to prison looking like all that. But he was beaten down to being pretty messed up. Though he was one on his own again, so he wasn't really ready for a fight, but he was about to get one. And they wound up taking Eri, and Deku winds up not keeping Eri, but like he takes care of her as if she was his own. And Deku's mom is actually completely supportive of this, trying to help him, because he knows how to deal with kids that age. Because, as always, trying to take care of Eri, but he has no clue what he's doing. Inko knows how to deal with kids that age, and actually says, I'll help with that, and does. Inko is basically assisting anytime Aizawa needs help, and Deku is there 24/7 anytime there's anything needed. And then, boom, I'm gonna say that's how everything, like, kind of comes down to the end, because I know that whatever his name is, oh yeah, Shigaraki got a power-up, but I don't know fully about it, so yeah. I'm gonna say that Deku just is there to foil Shigaraki's plans and knock him clean out. Well, later.